Participation trophy mentality is going to destroy the jiu-jitsu culture if it's allowed to remain unchecked in the next generation. So when I say participation trophy mentality, what do I mean? Very simply, getting rewarded not for practical achievement, for accomplishment, for demonstration of practical skill, but simply for showing up, or even for showing up and working hard. That in and of itself should not be rewarded in the jiu-jitsu culture when it comes to promotions, when it comes to getting medaled in tournaments, things like that. Look, in no other aspect of a kid's education, whether they're learning math, reading, writing, etc., do they get rewarded simply for showing up and turning something in. If the quality of their material is poor, they fail, they get an F. If it's good, they get an A, or somewhere in between, depending on how well they did. Why then in jiu-jitsu should they get a stripe, should they get a kid's belt, simply for showing up and working hard? It should be based entirely on merit. And I'll tell you what, kids are not stupid. They know if somebody actually deserves something. If you're just giving out stripes and belts to everybody just because they're showing up and they're coming to belt testing, they're not stupid. They see that. And the kids that work really, really hard and are actually good resent the fact that there's other kids that are not as skilled at them at the same rank. It's unfair. I always beat them. I always win in every positional exchange. Why then do they get promoted alongside me? It doesn't make sense. And overall, for the kids that underperform, it gives them a false sense of confidence and it teaches them a bad lesson. It teaches them a very, very bad lesson in that, hey, if you just show up, you'll be rewarded for that. That is a horrible lesson. Showing up is not enough. You have to show up and you have to actually demonstrate skill. You have to demonstrate value. And that's true in every aspect of life. I would never hire someone that only shows up. They have to do a good job. So any other employer that is going to potentially employ that kid is only going to do so on meritocratic, well, in our culture, maybe they'll consider other things. But what it should be is meritocratic criteria. And even if other things are considered, which they shouldn't be, being good at what you're trying to apply for is necessary in order to advance. So we want to be teaching kids that lesson early on. And especially adults. I mean, I don't know why you would ever give an adult a stripe or a belt if they didn't earn it. I mean, I think that's extremely patronizing and an insult to their intelligence to do so. But for some reason, schools do that sometimes. There are schools out there that have attendance-based promotions where you have a punch card, and once you get enough holes in your punch card, then congratulations, you get a stripe or you get your next belt. That's so stupid and ridiculous. And that should be called out and gatekept against furiously by other jiu-jitsu people. If McDojoism only exists in about 10% of schools right now, but they become belt factories that just hand out belts. They just hand out purples, brown, and black belts to anybody, right? They're going to basically outproduce the schools that do things in a meritocratic way because they give out less promotions because it's actually based on meritocratic criteria and not just showing up. So they will eventually, those black belts will eventually outnumber the meritocratic-based black belts if that is allowed to persist, if it's not called out, if we don't advise people from those schools, hey, listen, this is BS. You need to go train somewhere else that's actually going to teach you legitimate skill and give you promotions based on merit. There shouldn't be purple belts from some schools going into other schools and getting decimated by those schools' white belts. That's just ridiculous. No one would consider that purple belt to be an actual purple belt. If they're going to other schools and they're just getting destroyed or having really tough roles with white belts from those schools. So those are some of the ways I think we can combat this. We can promote cross-training, and we can tell people at these schools, like, hey, you're being screwed. You're being screwed over. You're being misled. You're being scammed. They're not giving you actual skill, and you need to go somewhere else where you're actually going to learn practical jiu-jitsu, practical self-defense, and deprive them of money, right? Just deprive these schools of money and attention. That's what really needs to happen. I don't believe in centralized solutions. I don't believe in having some stupid governing body make determinations about this stuff. It needs to be gate kept at the cultural level, because ultimately those centralized solutions create more problems than they solve almost every time. But that's what needs to happen. We don't want McDojoism to be associated with Jiu-Jitsu. And we have one really big advantage going for us, which is that culturally, it's expected for everyone to roll if you're not injured, if you're not crippled, right? It's expected for everyone to roll, and the mats don't lie. You can have a black belt on, but once you get on the mats, they don't lie. You either have the skills or you don't, and it'll be shown to everybody else. So we have that going for us in a way that the striking-based martial arts of the 80s and 90s that eventually got watered down don't, because hard sparring causes damage to people, it causes damage to people's heads and things like that in a way that Jiu-Jitsu rolling does not. And also, when you go into another school and you ask to spar, if it's in a striking context, I think back then it was looked upon much more as a challenge than it is now in Jiu-Jitsu. It's just like, well, we got an out-of-towner, I'm the gym owner, right? I'll roll with them. And I do that all the time. I'll roll with anybody that comes in from out of town, because I think it's important, you know. And plus, you know, if they're gonna pay me a drop-in fee, then I think it's a good thing that I'm rolling with them and not just putting them off to the side and being like, all right, you roll with my guys, you know. So giving them a little bit more value. But going back, look, we want to make sure that we keep that element intact, that it's expected for everyone that's not injured to roll. Maybe not all the time, but they should be seen to roll and made to roll with everybody, because that's the best way to keep things honest. And if we continue to do that in the next generation, Jiu-Jitsu may not be that watered down, and it may continue to be the strict meritocratic art that it is now, and all the beautiful things that come with that. So let's do our best to keep it that way. Make sure you guys share this video. Make sure you guys are subscribed to the channel and click that notification bell if you guys are new. Thanks a lot for watching. We'll see you next time.